Saturnastra, chapter 51. Making the most out of a mess situation. He had made his way back to the outskirts of the city to fetch Horsey, and he was being taken care of by the Fangs. The Fangs referred to camp outside the city as money-saving precautions. And the horses' stables were well furnished. At another time, the stable of this house could house 12 horses and 4 carriages, and now there were only 2 mares and a pack mule. And the stable master was apparently one of Tawasi's daughter, and the other was posing as the maid. Once in return, he was greeted by a luxurious meal, and there was plenty of assortments of rice and wild games. And before, the Tawasi's daughter were playing the role of servants, and they were not doing dinner as was the custom of the day. More than half a year rolled by uneventfully, and during this time, the last room in Tawasi's home was rented out on several occasions. And mostly only stayed for for a couple of weeks, and to test out his skills, Tawasi asked him to plan a birthday party for her eldest daughter, Abigail, which meant father's pride and joy, and she was turning 17, which meant that her internal clock was thinking. And about 90% of all of the girls in the city were married by the age of 15, and they were usually married to men 5 or 10 years their senior. And some religious sects practiced polygamy, and this was more common among the warrior caste. And during Abigail's birthday, Tawasi browsed Brunhilda into finding a proper husband for Abigail, since she wasn't having much luck, preferably a man who was only 1 year older than her daughter. Tawasi hadn't taken care of this herself, and she needed a third party to conduct negotiations. If she did it herself, then this would prove to the other that Tawasi had fallen into harsh financial straits. The good matchmakers could set their own prices. Brunhilda did a market study of the marriage business in the city, and she read all the books pertaining to the subject supplied by Tawasi. During those few months, he amused himself by exploring the city, and he did this whenever he was prowling about a new place, and he did don his black robes that he used to sneak in about, and he even observed the forbidden religious ceremonies in spite of the Hatish's constant pestering and the guards and all of the traps that were designed to keep him out of there. And after a few months of playing hide and seek, the Hatishas gave up on pursuing the ever-lucid Ahi. And after they stopped searching for him, the temples lost all of their allure. And as for Sin, he was apprenticed to the high priest of the god of Ninasu, and he was learning of the healing arts of the god of the seas and healing. And a combination, if you ask me, commented wicked Sophie. And to the Brunhilda was going to the market for a different purpose, and she had finally settled on several targets, and she knew the high and the low and the medium price for Abigail, and by now Brunhilda's fate was well recognized among the locals, and in the marketplace, Brunhilda could walk alone in peace. However, when dealing with the locals, she still required the presence of a man. And since the Persian and Sin were busy, Brunhilda asked Ahi to come along. Ahi wore his black green robes with a slight shoulder sport, and he had decorated golden gibberish for decoration, and he also wore sandals. The pair made their way to the marriage market, and all of the marriage negotiations were done in this location, and the market was within a large assembly room, and the halls were decorated with rugs featuring golden animals from the savannah against a blue background. In the center there was a marble staircase, and the Celestina would go out there and showcase the proposed bride, and among the richest families the Celestinas came along and simply advocated the family fortune, and the men in the crowd would offer a bride price to match the offered dowry, and aside from the raised platform there was a podium with an announcer guy, and he gave the crowd a brief introduction. And Brunhilda made her way towards the announcer and handed him a piece of paper, and he read it over the top and mumbled, "I don't understand this funny script of yours, write it in a way that I can read it." Brunhilda looked at the text over the top, and she wrote it again, and she sat down, and then the announcer said, "The next marriageable maiden is Abigail, daughter of Tawasi, the widow of Benestina, and like we all know, their family fortune has declined in ouch." And he threw a small pebble at his head before anyone was none the wiser. And this made the man chuckle, and the real pity was that the impact was akin to a shot of a BB gun or rubber bullets. And he went out with Brunhilda to the podium, and the men started mumbling among one another, and Brunhilda got out from her magic pouch a scroll. And he read it. "Abigail is a healthy 17-year-old girl looking for a boy over the same age," translated he. And they obtained a few murmurs from the crowd, and Brunhilda rolled up the drawing and then brought out a perfume bottle, and it smelled of lilacs, vanilla, and a bit of rose. And she spread it on top of the handkerchief and threw it at the crowd, and a perplexed older gentleman picked it up. And he explained that Watson wanted us to highlight her lady's habit and all that sort of nonsense, and frankly manners are completely useless in the face of producing a powerful brood, explained, and he pointed to the animal carpets. And then he continued, after listening to Brunhilde's suggestion, marriage tendencies among humans are flawed, and one should value producing the best offspring, and one who is likely to survive even the most extreme circumstances, explained, and he looking onwards towards the man. And Brunhilde then pointed towards the men in the warrior class. And take for example the lions. They are polygamous like Jolad, and only the strongest male has the largest brood, and yet, said he, stopping to build a suspense. You fail to see the physical importance of the lioness. It is she who performs all of the kill, and Abigail is a lioness in search of a lion, finished he. And even the side of a lion metaphor was a bit cheesy, but whatever. Brunhilde was apparently fishing for someone from the warrior caste. The warrior caste was about his ranking, and one of the old men from the warrior caste asked, why so much emphasis on the same age? The sooner the breeding starts, the more offspring they may produce. Among the Spartan warrior city-state, men and women only breed at the age of 18, and this assured a healthy stock of warrior and low infant mortality rate and high pregnancy survival rates, explained he. And who are the Spartans? Asked some of the men in the crowd. And the same man continued, and what's this common marriage habit? Is this a common marriage habit in your city-state? And then he pointed to Brunhilde said, she said that Dragon King have other breeding habits. However, they did breed with humans from time to time, said he pointed to Brunhilde and then to a random person in the area. And then one whispered to one another, and the announcer then said, if you're a dragon, then prove it. Shed your human skin and turn into the beast you once were. Brunhilde handed her magic bag to a he, and she stripped bare, her stripping bare, accompanied by hooting from the crowd, and the hooting turned to terrors of scream when she changed into her draconic splendor, and among others who fled, the only ones who remained were the warrior caste and a few curious high priests. And the announcer then said, what, the name of the gods, a real dragon? Brunhilde's frame was as large as a horse, and her open wings made her seem bigger than what she was. Brunhilde snorted a whistle of fire, and the announcer cowered behind his pulpit. And he then translated Brunhilde's growl. According to Albion, the dragons started life as ordinary lizards, and through selective breeding they were able to become such magnificent creatures, and if the humans do the same, they can overcome their limitations, their physical limitations. Brunhilde flapped her wings, and then sitting up. The process takes millions of years, and human mothers must mate from the age of 18 to 25 with child they should abstain from drinking alcohols, raw foods, teas, and bad cheese, and meals should be small and plentiful, and once a day they should eat a fruit or something, finished he. And the warriors rolled their eyes, and then he said, 5,000 seagulls for Abigail in her instruction manual. Brunhilde nodded in response, and she assumed her human form and got dressed again, and both he and Brunhilde left the marriage market with the old warrior. And he was the old man Brunhilde had thrown the handkerchief to, and she had been fishing for him since she had entered the marriage market. And the old man bred war horses for the army, and he had a harem of 15 wives, and with his last 4 wives he had been testing out his horse breeding principle, and he believed he could produce stronger warriors with the right ingredients. His name was Airy, and he was quite the eccentric fellow, though he hid his eccentricities well. No one knew what was going on inside that head of his, though through her clever advertising, Brunhilde had secured a large prize without having to offer a dowry, and Airy guided us towards his home, and this was located in the warrior district within the inner city walls. And the houses were large and good number, featured training rings, and each house leader had a harem of at least 8 brides, and instead of dining, Airy led us to the backyard, and he signaled to one of his servants who brought out 2 chairs, as he sat down facing the host, and this made Airy frown. And minutes later, the servants brought out tea and biscuits, and for some reason he was glaring at him, and Airy said, so, you had done some research on me, and was the offer truthful or just a cry for my attention? He blinked twice and shook his head, and then he said, can you repeat what you just said? Sighing, Airy thought, what a bother, and then he said to Brunhilde, and what is it that you come to offer? Before he started translating what Brunhilde tried to say, Airy was obvious question, if she can understand me, then why does she speak so bizarre? And he shrugged his shoulders in response, and then he said, she said that she came to negotiate a marriage contract of Abigail with her youngest son Gideon. Gideon. Yeah, I think that was his name. Gideon is an eternal bachelor and I never trust him with money, and besides Kid would never agree to marry, said Eric with his usual brutal honesty. And soldiers are not everything, though they think they are, and he may be as useless as a soldier, but he has plenty of other untapped potential in other departments, translated Brunhilde. It also Purdue tell me what employment my son should practice, inquired Airy, and this time Brunhilde shrugged his shoulders in response, and he suggested spy. He has a knack for fading into the background. This rambling about Gildan went back and forth, and by sunset Brunhilde had completed her negotiations, and between us Brunhilde had thought of Gideon because he was easily manipulated, and his last personality would make it easy for Abigail to lord over him, and she painted Gideon with the brightest color, and Gideon truly was quite a nice chap. In fact, Ari only knew hearsays about his son, and like most men in his kingdom, he kept his children at arm's length, and he never bothered to truly get to know his entire brood unless if they proven to be especially talented in swordplay. Alright, so that's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye, God bless.